In this video, we will examine the book publishing industry. We will try to find out its history and how it operates in the contemporary world. A brief history of book publishing. Ancient times. Most historians trace the origins of the book back to the ancient Egyptians, who developed a written script and used reed pens to write on papyrus scrolls. In around 105 AD, Cai Lun, an official attached to the imperial court during the Han Dynasty, created a sheet of paper using mulberry and other bast fibers, along with fish nets, old rags, and hemp waste. Woodblock printing, another great Chinese innovation, produced the world's first print culture. Diamond Sutra is the world's earliest complete surviving dated printed book. Woodblock printing is a meticulous process that involves carving an entire page of text onto a wooden block, then inking and pressing the block to print a page. Movable type is another printing method, which was invented by Bi Sheng, a commoner living in the Song Dynasty in around 1045. However, woodblock printing was better suited to Chinese characters than movable type. Therefore, the movable type did not replace woodblock printing in China until the 19th century, when Western printing presses were adopted nationwide. In medieval Europe, scribes were laboriously copying texts by hand. Book culture in the Middle Ages was dominated by monasteries, which became centers of intellectual life. Johannes Gutenberg. A crucial step forward in the history of books came along when Johannes Gutenberg, a German goldsmith and book printer, invented mechanical movable type in the mid-15th century. Though he probably printed other, earlier materials, it was the Bible he printed in 1455 that brought him fame. This book, commonly called the Gutenberg Bible, ushered in Europe's so-called Gutenberg Revolution and paved the way for the commercial mass printing of books. The most profound change was the way books were produced and distributed, and the way information circulated throughout the world. Handwritten or hand-copied materials were expensive to produce, and the cost of education in time and money had made reading an expensive luxury. However, with the spread of printing, written communication was available to a much larger portion of the population, and the need for literacy among the lower and middle classes grew. The ability to read became less of a luxury and more of a necessity, which led to far higher literacy rates and widespread education among the masses. The Renaissance. The desire for knowledge among the growing middle class and the new availability of classical texts from ancient Greece and Rome helped fuel the Renaissance, a period of celebration of the individual and of a turn toward humanism. First, more material from various sources was published, and people were freer to read what they wanted. Dominant authorities, such as the Crown and the Church, were now less able to control communication and, therefore, the people. For the first time, texts could be broadly dispersed, allowing political, intellectual, religious, and cultural ideas to spread widely. Also, for the first time, many people could read the same books and be exposed to the same ideas at the same time, giving rise to mass media and mass culture. Second, science was revolutionized as well. For example, standardized widely dispersed texts meant that scientists in Italy were exposed to the theories and discoveries of scientists in England. Because of improved communication, technological and intellectual ideas spread at a faster rate, enabling scientists from disparate areas to build on the breakthroughs and successes of others with greater ease. Third, as a result of the high value placed on human knowledge, libraries flourished during the Renaissance. As they had been in ancient Egypt, libraries were once again a way of displaying national power and wealth. The Berlin State Library was founded in 1661, and other European centers soon followed. Libraries were also associated with universities, clubs, and museums. However, these were often only for subscribers. The United Kingdom's Public Libraries Act 1850 fostered the development of free public lending libraries. After the American Civil War, public libraries flourished in the United States. Philanthropist Andrew Carnegie helped bring the Renaissance ideals of artistic patronage and democratized knowledge into the 20th century when he helped found more than 2,500 public libraries in the US, Canada, and elsewhere. Modern times. Technological advances in the 19th century, including machine-made paper and linotype typesetting machine, made book publishing simpler and more profitable. Many of today's large publishing companies were created in the 19th century. For example, Macmillan was founded in Scotland in 1843 and opened its US branch in 1869. The biggest change to hit publishing in the first half of the 20th century was the increasing popularity of the paperback book. Books covered in less expensive, less durable paper had existed since Renaissance chapbooks were invented, but they were usually crudely printed works that were meant only as passing entertainment. In 1935, the publishing industry was changed forever when Penguin Books, a paperback publisher, launched in England, ushered in the so-called paperback revolution. Instead of being crude and cheaply made, Penguin titles were simple but well-designed. The publisher concentrated on providing works of literary merit, thus fundamentally changing the idea of what quality books should look like. A close look at book publishing. The least mass. Now let's examine the book publishing industry more closely. The book is the least mass of our mass media in both audience reach and the magnitude of the industry itself. And this fact shapes the nature of the relationship between this medium and its audience. Publishing houses, both large and small, produce either narrowly or broadly aimed titles for readers, who buy and carry away individual units. This more direct relationship between publishers and readers renders books fundamentally different from other mass media. For example, because books are less dependent than other mass media on attracting the largest possible audience, books are more able and more likely to foster new, challenging, or unpopular ideas. As the medium is least dependent on advertiser support, books can be aimed at extremely small groups of readers, challenging them and their imaginations in ways that many sponsors would find unacceptable in advertising-based mass media. Because books are produced and sold as individual units, as opposed to a single television program simultaneously distributed to millions of viewers or a single edition of a mass circulation newspaper, more voices can enter and survive in the industry. This medium can sustain more voices in the cultural forum than other traditional mass media. Commercialization. With the exception of self-published works, the author is not the person who is in charge of producing the book or sending it to the audience. Although the author's name is often prominently displayed on the spine, a published book is actually a product of many kinds of labor and people. These days, the tasks of editing, designing, printing, promoting, and distributing a book generally fall to the book's publisher. Early book printers acted as publishers because they produced pages and sold them commercially. The second half of the 20th century was marked by the consolidation of the book publishing industry and by a trend toward media consolidation, where large international media empires acquired smaller companies in many different industries. Due to this, the publishing industry found itself pressured to turn increasingly high profits, as publicly traded companies have an obligation to promote their shareholders to make a return on their investment. From the beginning of the 21st century, book publishing has become an increasingly centralized, profit-driven industry. On the other hand, the last few decades have seen a sharp rise in electronic entertainment. In a world full of all types of media, each clamoring for people's time, the publishing industry is endeavoring to do everything it can to capture readers' attention. One thing that the publishing industry has been doing to this effect is to focus on books with best-selling potential at the expense of reducing works that may not sell well. As a result, less popular authors find it more and more difficult to publish their works. Such a system evaluates books on the basis of their commercial potential instead of their literary or academic merit. The trend in book publishing. Book superstores. Another trend is the emergence of book superstores in the 1990s. Chains like the Barnes & Noble rose to prominence because their low prices, large selection, and upscale atmosphere made them popular among with book buyers. These superstores led to the closure of a large number of independent bookstores. In recent years, the book superstores have been losing their market share to large retailers such as Walmart. E-books. Additionally, brick-and-mortar stores are coming under threat from Amazon and other online retailers. E-books began to enter the field. Because there are no printing costs, e-books are relatively cheap to make, and consumers expect to see these savings on their end. However, the publishing industry is worried that the lower price for e-books will make consumers unwilling to buy more expensive physical books. The library is also being redefined in the digital era. Digitized books give anyone with an internet connection to have access to millions of volumes at once, and some advocates hope that digital libraries will lead to a rise in global literacy rates. Millions of books in the public domain are available as free downloads. Google Books, the largest digital library, has run into trouble with its plan to digitize as many books as possible, even books under current copyright. Critics worry that Google's resources could give it a monopoly on information and access. Self-publishing. One more trend in the publishing industry is self-publishing, which used to carry a social stigma as well as a high cost. Thanks to print-on-demand services, self-publishing is an increasingly popular option for amateur and professional writers. It appeals to authors who may have a niche audience or who want more control over their work. Print-on-demand makes it possible for more books to be published. Profit-driven. A larger trend in the book industry is an inclination to focus only on net profits. Retailers are getting larger, consumer prices are getting lower, and popular books are receiving the majority of attention. While this has positive short-term results for consumers and large retailers, the effects are devastating for most authors and smaller bookstores.